When Sangeeta texted me, she said, how does this sound as a title? Nonlinear careers in a time of... I was like, oh, yes, please. Yes, we would love that. That's amazing. Thank you so much. All right, I'm so excited about this one. All right, please join me in welcoming to the stage Deepthi Parthasarathy. I'm sorry, Deepthi. Come. Margaret, Seery, and Swati Sapar. 3 amazing returners. That's fine. All right. It is so great to see you. It is so great to see you. So I have known 2 of these ladies for close to 10 years. And I might also know Margaret. It's very possible that we have met back in the day. So I'm very thrilled and excited. So I'm going to start. I'd like each of you to just introduce yourself, tell us your story. What were you doing before your break? What were you doing during your break? And how did you come back into the workforce? And we'll go right down the line. Let's start with you, Deepthi.
Hi, everyone. Super excited to be here with you all today. And thank you, Tami, for having me here. So I'm Deepthi Parthasarathy, Director of Product Management at Albertsons currently. But my journey started 20 years ago when I graduated in software engineering, was a software developer for about a decade. And I decided to take a break because my toddler was young, needed the time and the attention, and my family decided to move from Texas to California. I thought this was like the perfect juncture for me to take a break after a decade long, spend time with my little one, and then, of course, get back to work. I mean, I have 10 years of experience behind me. It must be super easy to do that. Yeah.
Super, yeah. Wicked easy.
After about maybe 2-3 years that I took a break, enjoyed my time with my daughter. During that time, I volunteered, at a bunch of places, including my daughter's school, Meals on Wheels, like all the fun stuff that I could do when because I was not working. And then my daughter started going to school, and I felt like I had more time on my hands. So I said, yeah, I'm going to get back to work now. I'm ready for it. And 3 months, 4 months, looking for a job. Nobody's responding back. And we'll talk more about that phase as we go along. But after about a year, and thanks to the organization that Tami was previously associated with, Path Forward, that kind of helped me make that jump and be a returner. And I got back to Walmart. And that was an extremely exciting moment for me because 2 things came together. One is, during the time that I had taken off, I realized I didn't want to be a software developer anymore. That was not where my heart was. So I switched to product management. So it was a big shift. And I got that opportunity to do it at a place like Walmart, Fortune 1 company. What more could I ask for? So from then on, it's been a path of learning, path of upskilling, and super happy to be where I am today. Yeah, that's been kind of, in a nutshell, my journey.
Awesome. Amazing. All right. Margaret.
Hi. Thank you, Tami. Really happy to be here today and speak to everybody who's on a journey that I was on some time back. Full disclosure, Tami, you asked for a show of hands of extroverts here when we started, and I am an introvert. I'm nervous, so bear with me. And I think probably 60% of you were the same, so hopefully some empathy there. Okay. And also, you said in your introduction a bit about how old you were, but I'm pretty sure I am probably the oldest person in the room, and I'll explain my journey, and you can add up the numbers and figure it out. I had a very rewarding 19-year career After finishing undergraduate school, I graduated in 1979 from UW and finished my master's degree in telecom engineering in 1986. And a lot of my career had everything to do with luck. Those of you who are from that era know that in 1986, Judge Green actually implemented AT&T no longer was a monopoly. And that was the beginning of competition in the telecom era. So actually I was studying for my master's in computer science and I was already a software developer. That's what I did straight out of college. And I had some great mentors working in a data center for the company I worked in who said, hey, there's this school. I was living in Dallas and working in Dallas at the time, SMU, one of 3 schools in the country offering a master's in telecom engineering, because the only folks coming into the world with that expertise are the guys coming out of Bell Labs. It was like just a wonderful piece of information handed to me. Long story short, got my master's degree in telecom engineering, and that launched my career in telecom technology. I went to work. I worked all through graduate school, actually. But when graduated, went to work at Bell Northern Research, which was Northern Telecom's R&D division, worked at Fujitsu, spent most of those years developing software specific to networking arena, and specifically in the network management domain. And that was, I progressed from being a software developer to managing small teams to eventually becoming the director of a lab. And I ended up having my children much later in life, but I was at a point where 2 of my 3 children had been born, and I was doing a lot of traveling I was in Research Triangle Park by then, back and forth, East Coast to West Coast. Probably a lot of you have done this yourself, but I remember flying out for meetings out here, running into the bathroom with a breast pump before catching my flight back to the East Coast, and life got frantic. It was too much. And I got to a point where I just didn't feel good about this. I can't do everything for everybody, and I brought these beautiful little children into the world. They need my attention. So after 19 years, I had a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, and I left my career to give them my attention, thinking, oh, I'll come back in about 2-3 years, you know. They'll be good, they'll be running their lives, I can go back to the work world. In parallel with that, ended up with my then husband coming out to California. I've been here about 25 years now. He had an opportunity in a startup. What happened when I early on started to look at returning was some very scary things changed my path in life. Both my daughters were diagnosed with a autosomal recessive genetic disorder called cystic fibrosis. I don't know if any of you are familiar with that illness. At the same time they were diagnosed, I fell pregnant with my son. So there's this year in my life that was like a black cloud. I don't remember a whole lot, but it was clear to me that I needed to continue to be with my kids. I needed to help teach these 2 kids how to manage their condition. Hopefully they could get to a place where they could live long, healthy lives. What I thought would be a 3-year break turned out to be a 19-year break in my career. But by the time my daughters graduated high school, moved on to college, they were fully aware of all that they needed to do to manage their condition. I had been taking them to Stanford CF Clinic every 3 months. They did their treatments. They knew the drill. And they were healthy. They were very engaged in sports as part of managing their respiratory illness. And my work with them over the years, my focus during that break was aligned with that, and also drew in what I felt was an intersection of my superpowers and my passion. I did a lot of volunteer work to raise funds for Cystic Fibrosis Foundation. I did a lot of work with their schools. I was on the school boards. I helped make sure kids got to science camp. For the city swim team, I engaged with the city to make sure we had the pool space rented for the pool team, et cetera, et cetera. That's what I spent doing in the years during that break. But then when my son entered high school and my daughters were fully independent, that's when I started thinking about re-entering my career. And I'll talk about it a little more later, but I kind of started by touching my toes in the water. And then grew from that into discovering what I wanted to do, and then moved from there into just diving into execution, making it happen.
Yeah.
So,
Margaret, that's amazing. I actually remember 1986 very well and the breakup of AT&T because my dad was a telephone lineman for New England Telephone, and so I was a kid. But I will say this, not the longest break I've ever encountered. Absolutely not, absolutely not.
Wow.
Long, but not the longest. I've met others, but thank you so much. Swati.
Hello everyone. I'm Swati, and I'm excited to share my journey with all of you today. After hearing their stories, I feel like my story is more like the incy spider who climbs up, falls down, and climbs up, and I'm still the spider who will not give up. So with that, I'll start my story. So back in 2016, I was coming out of a break of 2 years and looking for jobs. I was looking for open roles on all the websites, and people told me referrals help a lot. Who's going to refer me? So I started looking into my network, somebody who is already in tech and who would be willing to refer me. And at the time, all my network was the mothers of kids who went to the same daycare as my kids. So I sent my resume to them, and some of them were kind enough and were in good positions to send my resume in their networks. And then just by chance, my resume landed in the hands of a manager at PayPal who was looking to fill in a returnship role in her team. So it was just by chance that I got into this returnship. And it was amazing. I fit the bill. Everything was just what I needed. I joined PayPal in 2016 through a returnship program, and I was very excited. It was a first-time exposure to any Fortune 500 company in Bay Area, so I thought, finally, I made it. I'm going to be here for at least 5 years and, change my story. So I was hoping that this would convert into a full-time role. And another surprise. So I had also interviewed for Google while I was preparing for this, and I got a full-time offer from Google. And I felt like overwhelmed with a sense of achievement and pride, and I was very excited. I joined Google. And I was so excited that I picked a project which was a very difficult cutting-edge technology, which I had no background in, and I thought I could do anything. It was amazing to see Google from inside, to work with some of the best engineers. And it was also difficult at the same time because new technology, learning about the corporate jargon, no idea how things work in a big company, keeping up with the fast-paced teams, all along with raising 2 little kids at home. So it was not what I thought it would be. Around 1 year into that role, I was exhausted. It was affecting my health, it was affecting my kids' health, and looking at the overall situation, I was like, this is not done. I have to step back again. It felt like a very low point in my career. I thought, this is not working and I have to step back again. I did it anyways. It gave me a chance to reset, rebuild, and rest, come back. Around 2 years, I was ready to try again. This time, I only look for returnship roles because I knew that is more likely to work for me. And again, I was lucky that Netflix had a returnship program that year, and I made it to that program. So I joined Netflix. It turned into a very rewarding journey of 3 to 4 years at Netflix. I rebuilt my confidence, sharpened my skills, and built relationships with some amazing people at Netflix. So that was a great reward I got from the returnship roles. After that, I wanted to try something new. So I joined a fast-paced startup in Palo Alto called Rubrik. It was a very different experience compared to Netflix. Something rare I experienced at Rubrik is Rubrik went IPO in 2024, and all the celebrations and the atmosphere and how things change, that was an experience I got at Rubrik. Rubrik also supported my growth by sponsoring me to attend the Women in Tech conference in Washington, D.C., the CTO Summit in Bay Area, both events where I made some long-lasting connections with women in tech. I do reach out to them even today for some advice or some brainstorming. Cut to now, last 6 months I have been at Adobe. And Adobe is a great place for its culture, for its collaborative teams, well-defined processes. I think I'll hang in here for a long time. I think it's a great place to grow, continue, build my skills, and advance my career. So as of now, I'm looking forward to put some intentional effort into more formal trainings, technical or leadership development trainings, not only to advance in my own career, but also support others who are navigating similar journeys. And before closing, I would like to certainly mention that career breaks are not endings, they are just pauses. Every time I came back with a new perspective, new resilience, and a clarity about what really matters to me. And that is not only what has shaped my career, but also the person that I am today. Thank you.
Oh my God, that's amazing. You know, just so you all know, like, we pay attention, right? So I remember when it was someone on my staff called and was like, oh my God, Tami, you're not going to believe who got one of the roles at Netflix. And I was like, who? She said, Swati. And I was like, oh my God, hooray, hooray. We were so excited. So we pay attention. We know who you all are. We do. All right. So Deepthi, I want to start back with you because you did something that I always think is interesting, right? Which is you returned through a returnship at Walmart, you worked there for a couple of years, and then you moved to Albertsons. So talk about what that transition was like, and specifically, like, how did it feel looking for a job again, but now being back versus when you were looking when you were on your break?
So I think I want to start off with looking for a job when I was on a break.
Yeah.
Because at that point in time, like I said, I thought I'm going to easily get a job. I applied to all these companies, including Walmart, with one of the jobs that they had out there, which was in product management. And it's just static, pin drop silence. I was not hearing anything from any company. And at that point, I felt really, really low. I thought I was the only person who was going through this. It's the worst phase of my life. And then I went to one of these, events that Path Forward was hosting, which is where I first met you.
Yeah.
And then I felt like, well, I'm not alone in this journey. There's like so many other people. These were my tribe, right? And then I was like, okay, what can I learn from other people's journeys who are along the same path? What can I learn from the people who that day were on the stage, and to learn from them on how they had crossed the bridge to the other side. And that's how the whole Walmart returnship materialized. It was just a 4-month period.
Yeah.
And at the end of it, either you were converted to full-time or not. Thankfully, I did get converted to full-time and to a role which was in product management. So I thought I had it all, perfectly lined up. But it was not the role that I wanted because they put me into this infrastructure team, which I had absolutely no idea about. And I was supposed to be the product manager and tell them what needs to be done, which I had no clue about. Because I was more from the application area, my strength was the domain knowledge I had built in retail over the last 10 years, which is what I was looking for. So instead of being dejected at that point, I said, hey, let's make the most of the opportunity that's been given. I have the foot in the door. So how can I learn But at the same time, how can I add value? What are my strengths? What are my superpowers that I have that could be applicable to where I am, and what could complement the team? So I became their spokesperson, their ambassador for all the work that the team was doing technically, and build the client base, go speak in conferences, so they can showcase the work that they are doing so brilliantly. Through the course of this returnship, I think what platform that returnships give you, which I think Swati rightly said, that she went back looking for a returner role, is it gives you access to companies and people in senior leadership who are willing to bet on you, who understand the value you could potentially bring, but are not able to showcase yet. So that's how, at the end of that 4-month returnship period, I was able to switch to an application team, which was the perfect niche for me. And thanks to the leadership there, who were able to see that potential. So I stayed in Walmart for about 2-3 years. And even in that period that I was there, I was able to get promoted, grow in that space. And one thing I learned during this entire experience was networking, putting yourself out there, showcasing to people what you can do. So, which is how the Albertsons role materialized. So that's the whole backstory. So there were people and leaders in Walmart who moved to Albertsons to reshape their e-commerce platform, and they invited me on that journey. So I was blessed in that sense. And that is only possible because you're willing to put the hard work, but at the same time, you take every opportunity that you get, small or big. So I think everything adds one to the other. You just don't see it from where you are at this point in time.
Yeah.
So there's light at the end of the tunnel. You just need to get there.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember when Deepthi called me and she said, they offered me the job. It's not really what I was hoping for, but I'm going to go for it. I'm going to take it. And one of the things we always talked about with our returners is like being open to opportunity, because sometimes it doesn't always look like what we hoped it would look like. And I would say it has worked out quite well. Amazing. Swati, I want to come back to you because you similar question, but of course you went back, took another break. What was it like looking again after that second break? How was that for you?
Yeah, so like I slightly mentioned earlier, the second time I was sure I only wanted to do a returnship role. I needed that space to ramp up and prove myself, gauge the place. I'll talk a little bit about how it was the first time, because then it makes more sense to compare and say how it was the second time. So first time I had no clue as to what is the landscape, what are the different possible roles, what are the different possible companies. I didn't even know what is a small company, what is a big company, and how that affects your role in that company. So the second time around, I had a much better idea about what are the things that are more likely to work for me. I had a cohort from my first returnship. I am still in touch with them, the ones from PayPal. Even if I didn't complete the returnship, I got my cohort, and I'm following their journeys. They are following mine, and we even now sometimes message, oh, I think I'm doing this. Would you like to join or cheer for me or things like that?
Yeah.
So that helped a lot. And like Deepthi also mentioned, like there are so many others like me in the same boat. That gives a very good feeling, kind of a strength. Also validating. I think sometimes we go in a loop when you have little kids and you feel like, with these kids, am I being unfair to these kids by wanting to go back to work? And it sends you on a guilt trip, and you can just go on and on. So when you see more women like you just feel like it is normal for me to want to do something about my time, about my life, about my identity. And there's no reason to carry a guilt. It might be a different journey, but it is a valid journey, and I deserve it. So that's what the cohort helped me believe in. Yeah, like I think that's pretty much the second time.
Yeah, and I also remember when the guy at PayPal called me and said, we're going to lose Swati. She got a job at Google. And I'm like, how do you feel about that? And he's like, I can't be mad about that. And I'm like, no, you really can't be mad about that. But I wanted to underline one other thing that Swati said in her opening, was that the only people she knew was the other moms at daycare. I talk to women about this all the time. Your network is everyone, right? Like your network is everyone, right? The folks in your faith community, the folks at Cub Scouts or Girl Scout or whatever scouting or whatever, extracurricular, your kids are dragging you around to 7,000 of these, right? Make friends with the other moms and in particular in other parents, and particularly the working moms. The working moms are working, right? They're in the workforce, right? They can be great champions for you and are often very supportive. Margaret, so you were out of the workforce for a very long time. Not the longest, but a very long time. But 19 years is a long break. How did you approach coming back? How did you think about it as you were coming back?
I love the question because I had to reflect on it. And what I want to say to everybody is I realized after the fact how I approached it. I mean, I wasn't as purposeful as it necessarily sounds. But I kind of did things in 3 phases. I started with a phase where I was watching, I was observing, I was barely touching my toes in the water. I kind of didn't know where to go, where to start, what to do, who to talk to. So observe. And then I moved from that into what I call a kind of a discovery phase and finally an execution phase. And in that execution phase, again, a lot of luck. It was meeting up with women back to work, seizing opportunities at the power hour, and the fact that Women Back to Work had built this strong, meaningful relationship with Cisco. So the universe brought me to that place. But back to the watchful phase, I never knew what a returnship was. And in 2015, I think it was 2015, I went to see the movie The Intern. You all know that movie? I was like, wow, this is cool. And the thing about it, it was a true story about a 70-year-old guy who had this amazing career, retired, wanted to live out the last years of his life with his wife. She died, and he came back to do this internship. Well, that was a big eye-opener for me, and from there I started researching and doing some archaeological digging, and I found out about this organization called iRelaunch, which actually was established back in 2007 on the East Coast. I was in California. Finance, I was in tech. I'm like, this isn't going to come together real well for me, but in 27, I kept watching, when is this movement going to come into technology? When is this movement going to come to the West Coast? And in 2017, there was a conference at Stanford, which I attended. LinkedIn was there. I'm like, 19 years ago when I had to hire people into my lab, I was working with headhunters and combing through paper resumes, and I was like, what? I have to build a LinkedIn profile? Did I really have to do that? Anyway, that was a great learning for me, but important step in the discovery phase. And then from there, I moved into a place of now realizing that I had all these potential helpers, right? What did I want to do? Did I want to go all the way back to where I started my career from and write software? Did I want to kind of step in doing a program manager role, which was going to more utilize my leadership skills? Did I want to do something somewhere in the middle? I had to figure that out. That was a discovery journey. And I kind of did that by dabbling in different classes. I got onto Kaggle, and I learned Python. I had never programmed in Python before. I was very interested, because it was big at the time, I thought I might get into data analytics because I had done a lot of actual data analytics work for my swim team when we put together swim meets, and I just loved that kind of dabbling to get the outcome of that kind of thing. So that was a place that I paid a lot of attention to. But then eventually, I also worked with folks on how to present my resume. What do I do with this 19-year gap? Do I put it up front? Do I put it at the back? And quite honestly, I was honing in on what I wanted to do. I felt strongly that my leadership skills were best. I love technology. But now, in that discovery phase, I had to discover how to present it. And this is something important that made a huge difference for me, not just networking with Path Forward, iRelaunch, all these groups that were part of this journey for me, but I rejoined IEEE, and I rejoined SWE. I became a member of the Society of Women Engineers. And I attended one of their annual conferences in Minnesota. That was a huge game changer for me because the world of returnships was already starting to grow, and SWE's conference had tons of people who wanted to hire. I still am connected with a lot of the people that I met back then, but that sort of then got me, I got a lot of feedback at the SWE conference about my resume. I had my resume put together, and I got feedback from hiring folks saying, you have a 19-year career gap. You can't try to tuck it down here at the bottom, you know? Be upfront about it. I changed my resume and learned to speak proudly about that, what I did to use my skills during that gap. I didn't go brain dead. I did a lot of things in that world that used my management skills and my technical skills. I tended to lean into the technical things. I was the person, fixing the touch pads at the swim pool. I was the person calling Colorado timing system because the software broke down in the middle of the swim meet, all those kind of things, right? So I learned to put those things on my resume. Yeah, I worked 80 hours a week volunteering for free, but it used all the skills that any of these big companies wanted to use. And so that was a game changer for me to realize I shouldn't shy away from the choice I made, the road it led me down, and the fact that I want to come back now. And then, eventually, this matter of networking became huge for me. I sent out hundreds of resumes at my computer. And I'm like, well, like your daughter and her story. What do you mean they're not going to get back to me, Mom? No, I had to come out of my introverted self, close my laptop, start talking to people. And the world changed for me then.
Yeah.
That was everything. I had to embrace that. And I encourage all of you, if a lot of you are engineers, you might be like that, but I really encourage you to embrace that.
Yeah, it's definitely a key part of it. Deepthi, I want to come back to you. How did you work through the, sorry, that's not the question I wanted to ask you. The question I wanted to ask you actually is, how did you assess your skills and figure out what you needed to brush up on? So, at first you were kind of like, oh, this is going to be easy. But then there was a moment where it was like, well, maybe this isn't going to be easy. So what was that transition like? And how did you think about your skills as you were in assessing them? Or did you just be like, all right, well, I'm just going to keep going as I am?
So I think there's a lot of things that I did during the break. But the way we view it when we are the people going through it is very different than how you can think about it and portray it out there when you're looking for a job.
Yeah.
Again, that's all just bringing your story together and saying what are the skills that you built during that break and how you can add value to whatever job you're going to apply for. But I also realized that certain certifications would help someone else looking from the other side to say that, oh, okay, this is backed by data. Similarly, there were certain initiatives that I did just out of my own interest because I had a toddler who I was taking care of, and she wanted me to engage with her all the time. And we do want to do that as moms, but we also needed a little bit of break and me time. So I went ahead and created a Alexa voice skill at that point in time that could keep her engaged, so she could talk to it and have a freeze dance or like Simon Says and whatever. So I built that skill so she would engage in that while I got some time to do other things other than engage with her, right? But I used my technology skills to go ahead and do that, to solve a problem that I had as a person, right? But now when I was looking at the job workforce, I could bring that up and say that, hey, I have a problem-solving mindset, and this is what I did, and how can I showcase it? So it's kind of a blend of both things.
Yeah.
Like, what have you been doing, and how can you tell your story using that for the people on the other side so they can see the potential and value in you?
Yeah.
And I think we just have to be lifelong learners, no matter whether you're in a job, not in a job, whether you're retired. I see that in my dad today. Like, he never had to lay his finger on a computer all through his career, but now he can't live without it. He shops and orders grocery online that gets delivered at home. He just had to learn that, right? So we just all have to be lifelong learners. So upskilling is just human.
Yeah. Yeah. Swati, you talked about the doubts you had both the first time and the second time, right? Having to go through this twice. How did you work through those doubts? Like, what were some things that helped you work through internal and also maybe external, right? I talked to lots of women who are like, people aren't always as supportive as we'd like them to be. So how did you kind of work through all of those different negative voices that might be around you?
I think the most important thing is remembering your achievements earlier in life. Mainly for me, it was to go all the way back to academic life and remember that, okay, if you could do well, then you have a brain. You can think logically. Maybe something else is missing. And when you had the right guidance, you could do well. So try to figure out more than just what's wrong with me, what's everything else that can support me. So leaning on the earlier achievements is one thing. And leaning on my cohort or other women's journeys, like you mentioned, coming back after 19 years, I had seen the returners returning after 20, 22 years on the returnship websites and their stories. And if they can come back, then I need to believe that I can come back. Another thing is not being too specific about what I want. Maybe I was doing XYZ in my earlier job or earlier career, and the market has changed, the place that I am at has changed, my life situation has changed. So what do I need right now, and what is the highest priority for me? And being flexible about that helps a lot. That maybe I can do this, if not that, I'll do that. If not that, I have a backup option of this, and I'm willing to try again and again, like Incy Spider I mentioned earlier. So those are a few things that help me.
Yeah. I think figuring out what the things you did and like how some of them map to what they're looking for now. Margaret, I was struck about, so Path Forward started around the same time as like everybody's data science. Remember when data science was a thing that nobody could stop talking about? And I remember talking to so many leaders and recruiters and saying, okay, what did you call it before you called it data science? Because that's probably what these women are looking for or think they're looking for. And they're like, oh, yeah, that's a good idea. I should probably think about what that is. So, thinking about how what you did maps onto, that goes back to the question someone asked me about they want 5 years of experience in something that's been around for 6 months. It's that, what they're looking for 5 years of experience in something. What is it? What's the thing that's under that? All right, we've got a couple minutes. I'm going to do a lightning round. Not a lightning round, but one last question, because I love this as a final question for returners. And I'm going to go right down the line. What's one piece of advice you'd give to our audience, and specifically thinking about folks out there who might be a little bit feeling discouraged, feeling a little stuck, the market's a little tough right now. Like, what's one piece of advice you would give to our audience today? Deepthi, I'll start with you.
I would say that actually 3 things.
Okay,
if I can.
go for it. Yeah, absolutely.
So one is you may have a lot of self-doubt, but try not to project that or showcase it. So show up with confidence and proud of where you are, and not look at the break as something that's a weakness for you, right? Something that's going to pull you down. The second thing is ask for help, right? Because as women, we feel like we've got to do everything and we have to got to do it perfectly, right? So no matter if it is help on the home front, if you need to ask your spouse to step up because you need to spend more time learning a new skill, going out to events, whatever that is, right? Ask for help. And the third thing would be network. Don't hesitate to reach out to people, even people that you have not kept in touch with for the longest time. People from your previous work, wherever you may have connected with them, reach out to them. They know what you're capable of. They've worked with you before. And surprisingly enough, they will actually vouch for you. They will actually help you out. So just don't hold yourself back.
Yeah. Margaret.
I think I'd say 2 things, both very powerful. You have to have a growth mindset. Growth mindset means I might try and fail, but that's okay. That's learning. Let me try something different. You've got to have the growth mindset. And frankly, in the corporate world I work in, we're expected to have that, even in our day-to-day work. So that's the first thing.
Yeah.
The second thing is, I'm a runner. I'm a marathon runner. I've spent a lifetime. I've run over 25 marathons. I'm going to be doing New York City and Chicago coming up in a couple months. I learned a long time ago the mind is a powerful thing. You've got to use positive thinking. You've got to, you have the capability to discipline getting your brain in a positive place, just like you have the discipline to complete other tasks in life. And so I'm a huge believer in using the tools that keep your mind in a positive place and put that into your career search. It can be the simplest of things. Wake up every morning with positive thoughts. If you see little negative things creeping in, well, at the end of the day, ask yourself, what went good today, right? You don't ignore what went bad. You can acknowledge that, but then you accept it, have a growth mind about it, and move on. So those 2 things, really use your brain. In the marathon, it is a mind over matter exercise. So
Yeah. Swati, what about you?
Yeah.